Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a brand new explainer, and we're unlocking the true, active nature of Boston Harbor. Look, if you think the waterfront is just, a pretty backdrop for your seafood dinner, prepare to have your mind completely changed. We're using the fantastic Going Coastal Boston guides today to really transform our understanding of the city's edge. We're going to prove that the harbor is an immersive, living environment, not just scenery.
Right off the bat, I love this quote from our source material. Boston Harbor is beautiful, but never casual. It really hits the nail on the head, right? It perfectly sets the tone. This isn't just a calm little lake. It's a working port, a shifting tidal zone, and a deeply historic waterway. It demands respect. Whether you're navigating its channels or just exploring its shores, the harbor expects you to pay attention.
So here is the agenda for today's Insider Guidebook. We're going to cover living harbor history, Boston's wild coastal ecology, exactly how to get on the water, and finally, dining and waterfront events.
Okay, let's jump right into Part 1, Living Harbor History. We're exploring forts, ships, and lighthouses.
The harbor is essentially a giant open-air timeline of military history, stretching straight from the mainland shoreline way out into the harbor islands. First, you've got Fort Independence anchoring Castle Island, a total classic where you can watch the ships roll by. Then you can take a ferry out to George's Island to explore the massive Civil War-era granite walls of Fort Warren. If you love a good view, Fort Revere down in Hull offers an incredible vantage point from Telegraph Hill. And for those who kind of love a bit of mystery, the atmospheric ruins of Fort Andrews on Pettick's Island are literally being reclaimed by nature.
Now, what makes Boston's maritime past so incredibly special is that it's not just sitting behind glass. These are active, boardable vessels. The Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum is back open, bringing revolutionary history right to the waterfront. Over in the Charlestown Navy Yard, the USS Constitution and the World War II-era USS Cassiniang are just waiting for you to walk their decks. And you definitely can't forget the massive USS Salem down in Quincy for a seasonal visit, or the lightship Nantucket, which is undergoing an amazing restoration right now.
And all of this history really comes alive when you look at the 2026 calendar. The harbor is constantly hosting something cool. You've got the Boston Sea Rovers Underwater Clinic in March and the massive, super colorful Boston Dragon Boat Festival in June. But mark your calendars for July 11th through the 16th. Tall Ships Boston is happening. This is a generational spectacle that turns the entire waterfront into a living parade of historic sail, right before the iconic Head of the Charles Regatta caps off the fall.
Now, quick heads up, as your unofficial concierge, I have to give you a critical warning. If you are planning to visit the famous Boston Light in 2026, you need to know that due to heavy winter storm maintenance, there's absolutely zero public access to Little Brewster Island. You cannot step foot on the island. But there is a fantastic workaround. The 2-hour narrated lighthouse cruise departing from the Rose Kennedy Greenway is absolutely your best bet for seeing it up close.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, Boston's wild coastal ecology, focusing on urban birding and salt marshes.
It's fascinating how Boston birding operates in these deeply varied ecological layers. It's a real contrast between inland river habitats and the open coastal edge. Inland, at places like the Boston Nature Center and Magazine Beach, you've got these incredible forested migration corridors packed with warblers and spring migrants. But jump over to the coast at Revere or Winthrop Beach, and the whole ecosystem completely shifts. Depending on the tide, you'll be scanning for high-tide sea ducks or walking the low-tide mud for shorebirds.
And you absolutely have to pay attention to Belle Isle Marsh. This is the single most important coastal birding site in Boston proper. It's the largest remaining salt marsh in East Boston, and it hosts over 250 bird species every single year. The crazy part? You can literally just take the MBTA Blue Line, step off the train, and suddenly the dense city just opens up into this vast expanse of reeds, water, and sky. It is magical.
Okay, Section 3, Get on the water. We're talking paddling, sailing, and surfing.
We've looked at the history and the birds, but now it's time for some action. Whether you want a gentle Charles River kayak or real ocean surfing down in Hull, these outfitters are your gateway. For a historic vibe, Paddle Boston's Kendall Square Tour takes you right through the harbor locks. Community boating and Piers Park Sailing Center make getting out there incredibly easy and accessible every day. And if you're chasing waves, Northeast Surfing at Nantasket Beach is your classroom, while Wave and Pave in East Boston has all the gear you need right in the city.
Now, if you'd rather someone else do the steering, remember that an excursion boat isn't just a generic ticket. You really need to match the outing to the exact vibe you want. Want to see whales? The New England Aquarium Whale Watch is a serious 3 to 4 hour offshore expedition.
Prefer calm skyline views? Charles River Boat Company is perfect for that. Want to feel the wind in the sails? The Liberty Fleet gives you a very tactile, historic experience. And Save the Harbor does these amazing, civic-minded sunset cruises that make the water accessible to everyone.
For the private boaters tuning in, listen up. You can't just drop anchor wherever you please out there. You absolutely must follow the updated 2026 permitting process to stay in the harbor. Step 1, visit the Boston Police Harbor Master website. Step 2, physically mail your application to Boston Police Headquarters. Step 3, use their dedicated email for any questions. The harbor is heavily regulated for safety, so getting this paperwork right is essential.
Finally, let's look at Section 4, Dining and Waterfront Events. Time to explore the social edge of the harbor.
After all that exploring, you're going to want a water view meal. Our curated dining list perfectly balances historic downtown spots with the booming new additions across the water. You've got classics like Chart House and Rose Wharf Sea Grill. Over in the seaport, staples like Legal Harborside and the super lively Barking Crab are now joined by modern additions like Ocean Prime and Moxie's. For a different angle, Pier 6 in Charlestown and Real House in East Boston offer incredible views looking back at the skyline. And obviously, no Boston summer is complete without a stop at Sullivan's at Castle Island.
A quick pro tip, though. Do not rely on old guidebooks. The culinary landscape here is constantly evolving. Pasta Beach at Rose Wharf? Closed. Anthony's Pier 4? Long gone. So always double-check your itinerary, because the waterfront is a very dynamic, fast-changing neighborhood.
I know we covered a ton today, but you don't have to memorize all of this. The Going Coastal Boston platform is your master key to step off the paved harbor walk and truly get into the action. They are the ultimate connector to these coastal resources, so definitely head over to goingcoastalboston.lovable.app to access their interactive guides and check out goingcoastal.org for their blog. It is for sure the absolute best way to stay in the loop.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question to cap off our explainer today. The harbor is open, but how deep are you willing to go? The Boston waterfront isn't just scenery to look at from a distance, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to engage with the history, explore wild ecosystems, paddle the currents, and truly get coastal. So get out there, grab your Going Coastal Boston guide, and make the harbor your own. See you next time.